Welcome to the Teens Talk podcast, created by the Student Virtual Board of Youth Celebrate Diversity. YCD supports teachers and students organizing locally, educating themselves and their peers, and taking action for inclusion and social justice. For more information, please visit ycdiversity.org. Welcome to the season finale. In this episode, we dive right into the heart of student activism, sparking a dialogue about passion, purpose, and the challenges young people face when fighting for what they believe in. Join me as I speak with Khaled, and we explore the power of raising your voice, even in the face of opposition. Stay tuned for some season reflections and words from me at the very end.
So my name is Khaled Hamu. I'm a student at the University of Colorado, Denver. I first started organizing and being an activist kind of 2023 in August when I joined Students for a Democratic Society. I should be graduating soon, and I'm studying computer science.
A very bright future. What does being an activist mean to you personally? And what kind of makes a good activist or community leader?
An activist is someone who fights for change, so I think anybody who really fights to see change in our system, I think that's I think that's what it means to be an activist. It's not just saying things are wrong, but actually organizing and fighting to and demanding that change becomes a reality. And what makes a good activist and a good community leader, I think someone who's able to get the hardships, the thoughts, the wants, the needs of the community, and take that and then make that into a reality. I think that's what makes a good activist is when just basic organizing, just asking people, hey, what do you not like about what do you not like about your school? What do you not like about your community? And then kind of just gathering what's the most popular thing, and then uniting everybody who can be united to make that change a reality.
Yeah, that's a really kind of in-depth thing. It's about taking that next step. It's not just being a complainer, this is wrong. It's actually something, and trying to do something about it and feeling that kind of passion and drive to make other people also get behind you, because you can't really do much alone.
Yeah.
So kind of going into who you are in your own interests, what factors or experiences have influenced which issues you prioritize and care about?
I think just being a young person, a young person of color, in this world. I think there's a lot of injustices that come with being those things, and that's what really has affected what I see in the world, and has affected how I want to see change and stuff like that. The George Floyd uprisings was wow, I can't just sit around and be like, dang, this sucks. I need to do something about it. People want to do something about it. I should go join them. I wasn't able to participate in the George Floyd uprisings, but I was like, wow, we can make change, and I want to see that kind of change. There's been a lot of organizing to see a community police accountability council and stuff like that, and to really fight for community control of the police. And it's there's the struggle's really high in Chicago, so seeing them just continue to fight and win, wins for the community, getting having a more input on things like police budget, police policy, and stuff like that. It's really inspiring to see them to see the work they do up there.
Yeah, sometimes it really can be a daily thing, from kind of the big events, but also organizing and implementing policy and stuff when people have their eyes on an issue and stuff. Thanks for pointing that out. So kind of going back to you, were there any individuals or events in your life personally that sparked you to be an activist or to finally go out and protest?
Any individuals? Nothing that really sparked it. I guess it was when I just, it was like the new semester, and students for a democratic society had they were tabling and they're handing out flyers, and I went to their new members meeting, and it was kind of just like organizing with them. That was kind of like, wow, like um, just seeing like the history, because they fought for things before I even joined, and just hearing that stuff, as well as like organizing to like around our school's budget and those handling of that by our admin. It was just kind of like, wow, like things suck, but things that are like right next to me suck. Like, let me go. Like, and this is a place where I have like the most um, like connection to and can like see change the easiest, I guess. So it was kind of like wow, like this is really important work.
Yeah, I actually had a kind of similar experience of an organization at my school that was really kind of up for like financial transparency and supporting other students and kind of elevating the student voice. And they came forward with a lot of policy initiatives. And we're kind of like, you need to make things more transparent and wanting to kind of hold admin in check. And I think that is just a kind of big offshoot of students needing that voice and wanting to make their campus a more positive place and wanting to do it themselves and stuff because there's not always an outlier easy way to get the voice, of the students
Mm-hmm.
into leadership and where people are listening and stuff there. So yeah, let's cut to the chase of what's been really happening. So it seemed like there was a lot of opposition to student activism and the protests on campus kind of at the end of the semester. What was your initial reaction to this, and how did you kind of address that there were people who didn't understand the issues at hand or who were opposed?
Yeah, I think the opposition, like in terms of like the police response, was like it was really crazy. We had like 60 plus riot officers with tear gas masks and whatnot pull up to us, and it was just like, okay, well, we had a plan going into this, what we would do. We followed that plan, and 45 people were arrested, but we knew that like they wanted to like destroy the camp, the admin who called the police, and we said, well, we still have the camp supplies, and we have even more people now. We're just going to keep doing what we're going to keep doing what we're here to do. We're here to see divestment. We're not going to just let them stop us right here. So it was just kind of yeah. So yeah, just kind of like seeing the opposition and just being like, I'm going to stick to my goals and the and seeing change. So just being like, even though there is opposition, there's nothing that you can do to like really change what I want to go through with. And how do I address those who don't understand the issues at hand? I think the biggest thing is just kind of continuing to like be the progressive voices and the progressive change makers on campus. I think that can really do a lot to like convince people, because a lot of people are already seeing like a lot of people already understand that like this is a really big issue, and our connection to it is something that needs to end. Now, the thing that like the really big thing is that they don't think that they can have an effect, or they don't know how to like make that change into a reality. So I think by continuing to be student activists and to be the ones who say this is wrong and I want to do something about it, I think that just naturally attracts people to our work. Initially the ones who understand that we can have a change, but then eventually we keep making small wins, and then and then we get even more people who are like, oh, okay, this is something that we can do. Let me join and stuff like that. This is an issue that has popular support, but not everybody understands that you can make change with yeah. So and then those who like are against us, so those who say that like those who are like, oh well, I want to keep the or those who like but those who like don't agree with us and are actually like against us and say like, oh, we don't want what you're trying to like, we don't want the change that you want. We understand that that's a minority of people, a minority of a minority, and it's like they don't speak for the student body, they don't speak for the people in the U.S. So largely we can just ignore them,
Yeah, people have their reason and stuff there, but it's a movement, when you're seeing your peers like put themselves on the line for this and you see something wrong, your immediate reaction is to want to change it. I think people are really inspired and kind of come along with that. And the reason why I was kind of more general about what happened on your campus, because I didn't read up, I didn't want to be misinformed about, the response. I also at my college had a pretty big response and stuff where there was like riot squads and a lot of very scary, intimidating stuff happening outside. And they weren't very nice to the student protesters, to say like the least, and how that opposition was very horrible. And they may have won on like the physical sense, but the movement is still going on and people are still really invested in this issue and still speaking up for what they see as right, as well as kind of reflecting, integrating other perspectives to kind of strengthen it. It's already like it spread after what happened at my school. I started seeing it spread across the country as well. Like it went from Columbia to my college to even high schools. Yeah, going into how it was really scary. I know being there. Was it difficult for you to really go up to taking a stand and become involved? Like, did you know it was going to happen?
Yeah, it was. Whew, it was. It's very hard. I'm someone who's like very timid, especially like, and it's like not as much as before I joined SDS and became an activist, but I was like, when we planned to do like the encampment, like I could barely eat for like days the before we actually started it, and like when my peers were getting arrested and stuff like that, like I was crying. I was leading chants and I had to stop because I was crying so much. But yeah, and then some of like the admin who are trying to like come after us with student conduct violations and stuff like that. I think it's definitely scary at some points, but I just know that like what the Palestinian people are suffering under is nothing or what I face is nothing compared to what the Palestinian people are suffering through. So that always gives me like like I'll always I'll always be worried. I'm human. And like things will always get to me. Because I'm human. But ultimately, like there is like people who are suffering way worse. So I can definitely endure. Thinking of them, I can definitely endure a lot more.
Yeah, it's really kind of remembering the cause. And yeah, it's not easy. It is really shocking to see like that happening, like your own friends, and seeing like especially people in power that you trust like turn against you, that you're told like you trust these people and be against you to that level and stuff. Were there any, you kind of talked a little about the doubt, were there any kind of like other psychological barriers, or maybe the thought of maybe this could have been done differently or better, or maybe this wasn't the way to go about it, that ever crossed your mind? Or were you pretty sure?
I think overall it was like, the best thing that we could have done. Like we've gotten so many more people, and like our student movement is so much more militant and willing to demand change. I think there's some like few details of like, oh, maybe we could have like maybe we could have escalated a little faster. Maybe if we like chose another tactic for maybe if we target another building or like another space on campus. There's little stuff like that, but the main points of like what kind of protests we did and like how we went about it generally, I think that we did the best that we could.
Yeah, that's really the best you can do. And kind of going back to people in power, I know there was some very big, like clear opposition, but how in general, like, I guess going up to the encampment to like after, did people kind of in power, even like faculty, respond to the on-campus activism? And were these people effective kind of in shutting you down or maybe trying to help? Like, we're kind of going off that.
Yeah, so the faculty, some of the faculty actually got arrested alongside with us. They were like, they saw the injustice and they like ran up and sat right next to us in the field, and stuff like that. So and then now and then now because of the actions that we have taken, they are now willing. They now want to like participate, and like they want to like join like Faculty for Justice in Palestine, and have that organization with them and stuff like that. So it's really beautiful to see. I think uh, were they, and I think right now we're trying to see if we can like get them to help us in our campaign and stuff like that, and we're still kind of figuring that stuff out. But yeah, they they would do things like they would talk to the campus administration and be like, hey, this is wrong. They'd have meetings with them and they'd say like this is completely unacceptable behavior and stuff like that. So they did have an effect on the admin and made things a little bit easier for us. As far as like the administration, they largely ignored our protests up until the camp. They like said nothing. We would like march to their admin buildings and we would hear nothing from them and stuff like that. And then camp comes around and then they send police on us and they like put out like letters. They like send emails to like the student body, like lying about us and stuff like that. I don't think it was effective though. I think we still have the hearts and the minds of the student body on our side. Because we had like 20 people in the morning where people got arrested, and then we ended up with like more than 100 after. So just like not really, it having the opposite effects on us and stuff like that. We have more people in our student organization because of camp and stuff like that. Just a big like shoot up.
Yeah, so it worked. You like may have lost in camp, but you've won like kind of the war. You're headed in a better direction. And I think there was a lot of kind of misleading narratives and stuff. There were other people out there who like weren't present or connected and stuff. There was like I remember like on my campus there was like a report that came out that no students were injured and stuff, and like they said all these kinds of lies. The media didn't do a very thorough job, or that they pretended like there wasn't like riot police coming to take away students, and they said all this kind of mean and not great stuff about what the students were doing when it wasn't true and stuff. But there was also people like administrators who were there like partially like for admin side, but also partially to protect the students, as well as a lot of faculty who were like leading their classes at the encampment. And yeah, it was really kind of the people power happening there, and all those chants, like whether people are loud or quiet, I think that it had the impact, of getting everyone kind of to think about this issue and to think about the Palestinian people and think about global injustice and what they can do about it. So yeah, I think there was a lot of more support. There was definitely a lot of opposition. Why do you think there was so much opposition from like people who are like admin or who are like very public people?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, our demands are going to like hurt our admin financially. Like they benefit from investments that we're telling them to stop. They benefit from contracts with weapon manufacturers, and stuff like that. So there's all these benefits that they get, but we're just saying like, hey, like, like this is unacceptable to keep these, because these are ties to genocide. The investments, the contracts. We need to see these ties get cut. But our admin who continue to make more and more money, who continue to like drive up tuition more and more, they just want to they're just being very selfish, and they're thinking of their own interests versus seeing justice and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's like sometimes people don't want to be uncomfortable. Some people do benefit from systems of oppression, and they don't like being called out or having to examine that. I don't know if it happened for you because you're also at an urban campus, but there's also a lot of homeless people, and there was kind of this really large sense of community. It was a very peaceful kind of movement, like in the camps, where people were sharing everything, people were helping each other and stuff, and that was scaring others, I think, because it wasn't usual behavior and stuff, that people don't usually get in league with people who are homeless and share that. I'm pretty sure Denver was actually trying to get rid of homeless encampments, and that was the law they were using to kind of justify. Did you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah. It's the we did have a really strong sense of community, and we were able to, feed so many people. We were able to feed people. We were able to get people resources and stuff like that. We got people blankets, tents, all of that, all free of charge and stuff like that. It was a very like beautiful thing that we got to see happen and stuff like that. We were able to have people focus on various like aspects of the camp and stuff like that. Focus on making it beautiful. Focus on running the program and stuff like that. The specific policy that we were violating was an anti-protest one that was put up in 2003 after a different encampment for the war in for like what for the war in, I believe, Iraq or Iran, and stuff like that. So but then yeah, it was actually because we were only violating a policy on campus and an actual law. The police, when they like the day after they were arresting people, they actually said, "Oh, we have no legal right to arrest these people," you know, like, and they never came back. It was only campus police and the state troopers who were there after the Denver police didn't come back.
Yeah, it's like they didn't even know like what authority like do they have and stuff there, because I think there's been a lot of fighting to make sure that people on campus have the right to speak out and protest and stuff, not necessarily be disruptive to other people's lives. Like a lot of people are like, oh, it's disruptive and stuff there, and it's like protests are designed to make you feel uncomfortable, like in my
Yeah.
own belief there, and to grab your attention and stuff. But there was no obstruction and stuff. And I really know it depends on the campus, but yeah, it was. Did things like escalate and stuff? You're saying like the troopers like left.
So they sent in the riot. The Denver City Police sent in riot police on the first day, and they came twice. They only arrested people the first time, and then twice on the same day, and then they never came back. And then from then on, it was the campus police and state troopers who would just like continuously like watch the camp and stuff like that and surveil us, and like yeah.
Yeah, so they knew you had the right to be there, basically, after that. So yeah, kind of moving on from the details of that, you already talked a little about kind of how this helped you, I guess, win and stuff. How do you measure the impact of your activism? And is there still a sense of community and solidarity among other activists who are at the encampments?
Yeah, I guess we measure the impact and the change we're able to see in the level of militancy, or at least I would, in the level of militancy, in the organization, and the numbers in the organization. We were able to get them. We were able to get the Metropolitan State University to disclose all of their financial investments and their contract, and give details about their contracts with Lockheed Martin and stuff like that. And we're able to get our demand met, to have meetings, because they used to ignore us, and then now they're like asking us, please, can we meet and stuff like that. So that's how we measure the impact, and a sense of community solidarity. We are the only student-led political organization on campus, but political orgs from all across the city would come by and give food and would say thank you for doing this, and like would ask us questions and stuff like that, and we talk to them and stuff like that. So there was like a real sense of like solidarity with other activists. They would help us with various equipment and things like that. And yeah, they we were like the most progressive force in the city for a minute, and it was a really beautiful thing to see.
Yeah, that's a very positive thing to hear, that it did work. It had the impact eventually that you were hoping to make, that there was this community, and it happened no matter what other people said and stuff, that you were there to see it and make that change. Kind of moving on to, people, activists of the future and kind of future movements and battles. I know there are a lot more to be fought. How did this experience like shape your own approach to activism, or what you thought about activism? And what's one key takeaway that you'd share with other young people kind of who are going to be the activists of the future, the next campus protesters, the next organizers?
How did this experience shape my approach to activism? I guess I'm a lot more ready for like really high intense, protests and really high intense struggles. Like before I was saying, like my stomach, it'd be hard to eat and stuff like that, and I'd get very nervous And I think my response to like the next really big action and stuff like that will be like more calmer and stuff like that because I think I can just I think I'm just like more used to it and stuff like that. And what is one key takeaway I'd share with other young people? I would say that you will. I guess I would say like our administration and administrations and just people in power in general, they are so willing to like enact violence against you, against peaceful protesting, and then say that you're actually the violent ones. It's like it's not just that they were like, it's not only that they'll call riot police on you, but then they'll be like, oh, you guys are the violent ones making all this trouble, and it's like, we're just students like on our own campus, sleeping in tents, and then so yeah, stuff like that. And they'll throw every like trick in the book they can at you. When we talk with our admin, they talk about it as if they'll talk about a reality that isn't this one. They'll say things like, "Oh, we love the protests, but the tents, we just don't like the tents." And we say like, "Oh, well, like the tents are part of the protest. Like why are you trying to?" And they keep hammering in on that like division between like the tents and the protest, and so we're saying this is the protest. All of it is the protest. All of it is applying pressure and trying to make change. So I want other young activists to understand that too.
Yeah, it's like they gaslight you and stuff, but keep believing in what you're doing and kind of knowing that power, like there's going to be that opposition and people who maybe they can't say it. Maybe it's because the systems of power don't want them to, but there is. Like your stories are inspirational that change was made and stuff there by that happening. Yeah, so thank you so much for making the time to talk to me and share your story about this. And I'm really glad I got to connect with someone else who was there on college campuses when the encampments came up. But was there any last things you kind of wanted to say?
I wanted to say that the student movement is on the rise again. We're seeing students standing up to injustice like we did during Vietnam and apartheid South Africa, and that's a good thing. It's a really beautiful thing to see so many young people, who will inherit this world, understand that we can make change, and we can't just criticize, but we must demand and escalate to see change. And yeah, I think there's a beautiful world ahead of us. Just given time.
Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. It's been such a great experience making these past 9 episodes. We got 10 hours of listening time here. So many stories, so many people came out and supported the show and put their voices and made them heard here. And I'm just so proud of everything that we've accomplished in this season and watching like the numbers grow, seeing you all come and engage and listening to the show is just like the most amazing thing. Being a podcast host is actually quite a lot of work. I personally came up with all 9 of these ideas myself for episodes. And every person who ended up on the show I reached out to personally. So it's very personal and fair affair. And yeah, I also personally edited and did all the production on the show. So yay. The timeline for this really was I started coming up with ideas for the episodes I wanted to do in December when I knew I was going to be the host and producer of the show. And I really kind of wanted to have a clear arc for the story that I wanted to tell and the topics I covered. So experts had to be filmed first, and it took quite a bit of a gap between like first developing the season and actually recording that episode to actually make it come to life. And then I kind of got to talk to a bunch of students immediately after when I recorded the first and second generation Americans dialogue and then the AAPI across the country dialogue. Kind of, I think it was within like a week or so of each other. So those episodes turned out really well. I really got to practice the skills and brought a lot of kind of new and bold ideas to how I wanted to interview. You might notice in some of the YouTube feeds for the show and the past episodes that I was in a room. I would always go like record on campus in like the same recording studio, and it's kind of like dark. I'd always like turn the lamp down and just sit in there by myself and get ready for the recording, and then they'd see me walk out like sometimes 2-3 hours later because I'd have to export the recording and be like, oh my gosh, I wonder what she's doing in there. I think this next kind of big leader I talked to was Carol, actually, from the Interfaith Action episode, and she was just really like had such great ideas and really like was talking about like being authentic and had a conversation with me beforehand. And then another person that really stood out was Aaron Studer for the mainstreaming and inclusion, where I really did not know that much about this topic and really wanted to stick myself into the show and learn basically all I could like on air about this thing at hand. And I didn't even know what the title of that episode initially because I was like, mainstreaming classroom education. I'm a student, so I'm not really on the other side of that. I did get to teach a summer camp over 2 summers, or a bunch of different camps, and being an educator is not easy. So hearing from Aaron Studer about how like important it was to foster like a culture of being inclusive, about how people with disabilities are not being given justice to like what they could do in school, and how there's all these radical new models to maybe maximize the resources of your school or community to be able to support everyone and promote an environment where people are truly like together instead of separate, was really just kind of a mind-blowing thing to hear. Because I know that there's been a lot of progress, but there's still so much ground that needs to be covered. And then another like kind of big moment was the college decisions episode, where I was doing my first like timely topic. I was really trying my best to get people as close to the deadline as possible for the enrollment deposit, but I didn't know the FAFSA was down, how I'd be able to get so many people. And my supervisor of the internship really came through. He has a lot of great connections in the community, how to bring people in. He brought in some really amazing students. They did such a great job, like just telling like their thoughts, and I really think that they can be an inspiration to other students and other people who are going through like the same thing, because it really is such a process to apply for college. And some of the other big dialogues, like when I was doing the first and second gen American, were just really like so many great like insights and thoughtfulness just started rolling in, even when there's people I didn't know, because I had a few people on here who I did know personally, like in my own life, and I'm like, they're gonna be a great fit, but I don't know if like they're gonna be able to come on the show. So I really kind of tried to use like the principles of being a grassroots organizer to my advantage of bringing people in and sharing like the story of the show and my own story being involved in it. And it's really personal work to be a podcaster. Yeah, so thanks for listening. And really everyone who came on here was so amazing. I got to speak to so many inspiring people who are activists, leaders, and organizers themselves. This episode, I was originally going to be called Youth Activism, and then I wanted to focus on a more current topic that I was personally impacted by on campus. So that's how I talked to Khaled, and he brought a really great perspective on what happened on campus and how, like, whether it's specifically a topic that you want to get organized on and make a stand for right now, or it's demanding something from an institution. He showed that you really can take the step and take a stand for what you believe in, and it's not always about the politics. It's about your own principles and beliefs, and it's not always going to be easy, but the community will get behind you. And sometimes it's better to have people's hearts, like activism makes more activism. I'd love to hear about people who are on the show, or people who are like part of this community who've been listening to this journey, feel inspired to make their own work, create their own media, because I'm sure you have so many people around you who have their own stories, and this can be like a movement on its own. And for future seasons as well, like I'm excited to hear about what other hosts choose to speak on and who they bring in, because it's really just building that community, allowing ourselves to have these dialogues to create change and impactful like action, and being able to hear a dialogue and see yourself like represented, or hear another perspective represented, was really like life-changing for me. It inspired me to be able to speak up and even feel confident enough to talk to so many people about their own voices. So I want to thank all the listeners of the show and people who made this season possible for just opening up their minds to these topics and just allowing themselves to gain more in-depth knowledge or learn new perspectives. I also have to give a shout out to all the guests who've been on here. I'm going to shout them out: Raina, Margot, Mason, Lolly, Nurali, and Blue. We also have Carol, Lila, Erin, Maisha, Kylie, Juri, and Jaden. And then, thanks to Nicole, Diagi, Victoria, Serena, and Khaled. I really couldn't have done this without you all. Thank you so much for making such an amazing season 3. I got to talk to 18 people in total, and there were so many other people I was in contact with over email who I really hope will get the chance to be on this show. And just thank you for listening to season 3. There's hopefully going to be more great content to come.